Welcome to My Jane, My Story, the only show that enables women to share their own secrets and insights to wellness, one story at a time.
Thank you, Paul. Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. Thank you for joining in today. This is My Jane, My Story. We're so happy to be here today with you. This is Diane McConaughey, and our mission at My Jane is to help you own your wellness through community, education, and exploration of cannabis solutions to address your biggest health concerns like sleep, pain, and stress. There's so much information out there today about cannabis, and so we decided that we needed to come together and share some stories of real life experiences so we can be better, and do better by helping one another. We're sharing stories from experts and everyday My Jane community members. Our guests are making major differences in their lives and the lives of those around them by using cannabis. So we are so excited that you're here listening because we just love to educate and talk about this wonderful plant. And today we have Shail Paliwal from Three Leaf Edibles Company. And we are so happy to have him here today because he is the co-founder and the CEO of Three Leaf. And we have had some of their products in our boxes, our both of our boxes, the Experience box and the Sleep box, and their edibles are amazing. And I love their tagline, which is, "We created Three Leaf because, like you, we want an edible where the food experience comes first." So they have low dose, healthy, no added sugar, you guys. I love that because it is difficult to find edibles at times that have no added sugar. And they have all different kinds of flavors, and they have cookies and fruit jellies, and they have a quinoa granola bite that I haven't tried yet. I would love to try that, Shail. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. And we would love to hear a little bit about Three Leaf and what it means to be a food first edible company.
Right. Thank you. So as the slogan implies, we really put the food experience first and foremost. And when we started to work on this a couple of years ago and brought our products to market in California, what we saw and what we realized that people would want edibles products, so food products and beverage products that are infused with cannabis that really tasted like good quality food products that they would purchase if they were buying something that wasn't cannabis infused. And so when we set out to do this, we really thought about, how would we make something that people would enjoy consuming, whether it had cannabis in it or not. And so we take that very, very seriously. Our team has a food scientist on it. This is a gentleman who's got over 35 years of experience formulating and coming up with
Wow.
food ideas, having worked with Nestle and Nabisco and Mead Johnson in his career.
That's great.
A person in California that oversees all of our food production and operations is also has over 25 years of food experience. This
Wow.
is a gentleman who has a Michelin rated star and has got a creative flair to him when it comes to the
Nice.
culinary side, but also, um, you know, has run restaurant operations many, many
Yeah.
times. And so understands what's involved in consistently creating good quality, high quality food products. And that's
Yeah.
something we take seriously. One of the reasons why we chose to take this approach to edibles was that we saw with the legalization of cannabis in California for recreational purposes that a whole bunch of people that have never tried cannabis before would now be interested in going in. The stigma would start to lift. Their concerns and fears about getting involved with cannabis products were going to disappear. But because they didn't have a lot of experience with cannabis products, they were going to look to make buying decisions in a different way,
Yeah.
and they weren't going to tolerate necessarily a substandard product that didn't taste good. They also weren't going to necessarily be interested in products that smelt or taste like cannabis. And so
Yeah.
our approach to this has been to really put the food first, and really make these products with care and do it consistently
Yeah.
so that you can develop a level of trust to know that it's going to give you the experience you're looking for, but also do it every single time you purchase it, and really help you with any kind of health or wellness things that you're dealing with. And that was really the focus for us right from the very beginning when we first started on this journey a
Nice.
couple of years back. And so 2+ years into it, we're happy to say that we've achieved that.
Yeah. You have.
And
Yours are great.
we've got a variety of products in the market in California now.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
What were you finding that people were complaining about with other edibles? Or, I mean, what were you
That's a great
discovering?
question. Yeah, and so one of the challenges that was happening with edibles in California before full legalization on January 1st of 2018 was that inconsistency was a big challenge. And so they didn't know what they would be told that the dosage is going to be 10 milligrams or 20 milligrams or 5 milligrams. And they weren't sure if that was actually true.
Okay.
And then their experience would be different than what they were told. And so either they'd have no cannabis experience whatsoever from the product that they consumed, or they'd end up consuming way more cannabis than they thought and then have a terrible experience. And there were...
And let me stop you for a second.
yeah.
What is a terrible experience? I've had somebody ask me that. Like,
Right.
what does that feel like? I mean, as a
Right.
cannabis user myself, what can you explain to people what that would be?
Absolutely. So let's break it down between THC, which is the psychoactive effect, or what people talk about, the high, and then there's CBD products, which don't impact your mind, but impact you from, your muscles and joints, and basically from the shoulders down. And so a terrible experience would be if you think you're consuming a product with 5 or 10 milligrams and know that that's a good dose for you, that you'll consume that amount and get the experience of the high that you're looking for. And if it turns out you've got double or triple that amount, then you're going to have a far more extensive and incapacitating high than what you expected. And so the term couch locked often came up, where people just consumed too much. And so they literally ended up stuck on the couch with all kinds of crazy thoughts going through their mind for hours. And you can imagine it, if that's in the evening or in the weekend, you can deal with it. But if you're relying on cannabis to kind of help you with some health and wellness things and would like to low dose or microdose throughout the day or at the beginning of the day, and then you've taken more than what you intended, then you've got a problem with kind of getting to work or dealing with all the things you have to deal with in your life, right? And so that was a huge problem. And so one of the good things to come out of the full legalization of recreational use of cannabis in California and the new rules that the state came out with for January 1st of 2018 was it put limits on that, and it required products to be lab tested. And a lot of the information clearly marked on the labels of the products. So that was super important, so that people knew what they were getting, and that they could trust that state regulated labs would also confirm that what they were consuming was exactly the case. And so the good thing with Three Leaf was we understood those regulations at the very beginning, and adopted those as part of one of our guiding principles right from the very beginning.
And it's not even just dosage either, right? It's knowing you're being tested for pesticides, metals, all kinds of things, right?
Yes. And so that's a really good point. And so, we use a distillate oil that goes through a very thorough extraction process. And we do that for a couple of reasons. One is, again, going back to your original question, we want the food to be the first and foremost thing that you experience with Three Leaf products. And so by using that distillate oil, it strips away any of the flavor, smell, or taste that you may get from cannabis. And so if you try a sample of our products that are infused with cannabis and those that are not, they taste exactly the same and they smell exactly the same. So that goes back to the need for food first edibles.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The other thing, though, is that by using that distillate, and we get everything lab tested when we purchase the distillate, and then our products in their final form, when they go out into licensed dispensaries, they get tested again in their final form too. And so we're confident telling people that it's free of pesticides and solvents and any kind of microbes and heavy metals.
So important.
And that's so important just for your general health, to know that you can feel confident with something that's a very clean and healthy product. But that's also what the state requires as well too. And so it's important. And I think that was a wise thing that the state required edibles companies to do, is to make sure that the products are clean of all of those particular things. And that's also consistent with the way the FDA approaches these things as well too. And so, we are not necessarily required to follow all the requirements of the FDA, but we do that anyway. And again, it's another way of just saying the food is really the most important thing, and that you enjoy it, but that that it's a cannabis product and what you're going to get into when you try it.
And it's clean.
Right. And especially because, again, these products are intended for people that want help with health and wellness issues.
Exactly.
If you're looking for a very social or recreational experience, there's lots of products out there.
That's a different story, right?
Right. And
it's another show.
Right. And it's not that these can't help you with that.
Right.
But a key emphasis for us is people that have genuine health and wellness needs and want something to help them with that, and are looking for alternatives to prescription medications and potentially alcohol and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, not as a replacement, but just as a substitution, and to potentially bring some balance into how you deal with health and wellness.
Yeah, as Kim, our CEO, says, it's just like having a glass of wine. You know,
Right,
just having a little bit. It's just you want to relax from the day and unwind and just chill, and it's just like having a glass of wine without, you know, the effects of the alcohol. So it's a great thing, isn't
Right,
it?
right, and it's interesting because I hear that story all the time from people, from women of all ages, whether they're millennials or whether they're middle or senior citizens, is that it is an alternative to other ways that either socially or health or wellness wise they're dealing with things. And Kim's example is a really good one, because let's say you're having a glass of wine or two or three or whatever you choose is your appropriate amount that you want to consume. Well, I've heard stories from people of all ages where, you know, they started with an edible and that got them into a certain state of mind. And then they went out, or they kind of switched over to wine or some other kind of alcohol product of their choice. And then later that evening or the next day, they just felt better because they had still gotten the same relaxation, the same enjoyment, the same fun, but just consumed less of something else, and so felt better about themselves that night and the next morning as well too. And we're able to, again, you know, a big thing that we focus on is our products enable you. Where's the word enable a lot? They enable you to deal with what you're dealing with, or be ready to take on what you need to. So in that story, they felt ready to go the next day because they had consumed less of one thing but still got the same relaxation experience and wellness that they were looking for.
Well, and it's enabling our endocannabinoid system to balance out as well, right? I mean, that's why we take this cannabis. That's why we love this plant so much, because it, you know, that's a whole nother show, you guys. I mean, on talking about the endocannabinoid system. But how does Three Leaf go about formulating the recipes?
Great point. And so I mentioned earlier on our team, we have a food scientist. So we have a food team in the company. And so we have a food scientist. We have our operations manager, who, as I mentioned, is a professional chef. And so the two of them really are front and center in terms of what we're going to do and how we're going to go about doing it. And again, we've touched on this a little bit already. What's really important to us is the end experience we're trying to share with our customers in California. And so that starts with, what do people enjoy and how do they enjoy it? So we want to do a couple of things. One is, whether it's a baked good, so we've got three different types of cookies, we've got a quinoa granola bite, and we've got a couple of jelly products. So what goes into the thought process is, how are you going to enjoy that? Like what size, what shape? So literally going back to independent of the cannabis side of it, you know, is it a 10-gram cookie? Is it a 20, 50? Like, how big is the cookie? Is it one that you would consume in a bite size? Is it one that you would break into pieces? Is it like a bar that you would then break up and share? So we go into thinking, how are people going to consume these, and make sure that the size, the weight, the sweetness, all is consistent with what people would want. And again, it goes back to the food comes first. So that goes into it. And then we match the dosing of the cannabis to that. So for example, if, you know, our three of our cookies are 10 grams, so like a single bite, and that would be enough to kind of satisfy you at the moment. And so we want to make sure that the cannabis dosing matches that exactly. And so some of them have 10 milligrams, some of them have 5 milligrams, and so everything is a very micro dosed or low dosed, and certainly enough to by itself satisfy you from a cannabis perspective, but also from a food perspective as well too.
Yeah, and it's great that it's low dose, because then you don't have to save the cookie and then it's dried out, or, you know, so you know what you're getting. But I mean, you can cut it in half if you needed to, but it's a great concept.
And it's interesting you bring that up, because that's what Californians experienced before the regulations came in, because you could have any size, like mass of product, and there was no upper limit on the dosing. And so you'd have people with a cookie, but it would have like upwards to 100 milligrams of THC, and then the brand would say, well, cut it into eighths. And that was a bit of a head scratcher for us, to be honest with you, because nobody eats an eighth of a cookie. They're going to eat the cookie. Right. And so that's why, okay, let's match how would you enjoy this by itself, and then let's make sure the dosing matches as well too.
Yeah.
And then the other end of the spectrum is our jelly products. They're micro doses, you mentioned, so 2.5 milligrams, and we sell and this and there's 4 in a bag, and the idea is that this is something that you can dose in a very low amount throughout the
Yeah.
day
Yeah.
and still enjoy it. And again, it all comes back to what experience are you trying to accomplish, and when are you doing this? Is it something you're doing during the day? Is it something you're doing at the end of the day in a more of a recreational setting?
Yeah.
And so, all of that, to go back to your original question, all of that thought process goes into how we formulate the products, and then the recipes come with it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the thought that goes into how we come up with the ideas. And it's also important because we do want people to enjoy it, and enjoy it over and over again, and and
Yeah,
be
of
confident they
course.
can share it with their friends and family. So then it's important that it be the same every single time,
Yeah.
right? And
Consistency.
that's where, again, a combination of our food scientist and our chef that oversees all of our production, to make sure that, when you're making these by the thousands, that it comes out the same, or
Yeah.
pretty close every single time. And that's important too. So I bring that up because that's important to going back to, how does the recipe come together?
Yeah.
How does the formulation come together? So it's not only what experience are we trying to have you enjoy, but it's also what health or wellness aspect are you trying to use these for, and also making sure that you can feel confident that if you buy it now or buy it 6 months from now, it's going to be the same product.
What do you find that people are looking for when they're looking for edibles? What does Three Leaf find? Are they looking for pain, sleep? What is it that?
It's interesting. So for a couple of our cookie products, rather, our coconut oatmeal cookie and our quinoa granola bite, the story that I hear over and over again is it's perfect just before I go to bed.
Nice.
And so, one of the things that we all have trouble with is sleeping.
Ugh,
And it's
right.
because we've got too many crazy thoughts
I
going on in our
know.
mind, and whether it's because we're on our devices, or just there's so many things we're dealing
Just
with.
life.
Just life, exactly.
Right?
And so what these products will do, and all of our products will help with this, but the story I hear over and over again is, because edibles typically take about 40 to 45 minutes for them to kick in, and depending on your body mass index and what you've had for food and drink before that. But
Yeah.
typically 30 to 45 minutes is how long it takes an edible to get into your system and start impacting you. And so people found that if they took it about 40 minutes before bedtime, their minds relax, they
Nice.
clear of all those thoughts, and then they're able to just fall asleep.
Oh, that's the best.
And so I just hear that story so often from people
Oh, that's great.
that it just helps me kind of relax and unwind at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And as we talked about earlier, it's an alternative to prescription medication and alcohol. So, and as you mentioned, everything's natural, everything's plant-based. Even though it's it's a distillate, so it's gone through some processing. There's no artificial aspect to it whatsoever, and that's super important.
It is.
So it's that. A couple of our products have, half CBD and half THC in them. And so there you get a bit of a blend experience. And so people that are active, physically active, but are dealing with, sore muscles or tightness or inflammation, that's where the CBD part of it comes
Yeah.
in. And there's a lot of people that are really interested in that now. So we hear stories as well too, that people want to go and live active lives. They want to run, they want to go to the gym, or they want to enjoy the outdoors.
Yeah.
We have so many fantastic things to do in California that are
Absolutely.
outside, but they want to be free of any kind of aches and pains. And so that's where the CBD products come in, and they will really help you with that. And we're actively looking at, doing research and development formulations on more CBD products as well
Oh,
too down the
good.
road.
Yeah,
So
because
it's
I know a
something.
lot of people are looking for a lot of CBD now, and some
Yeah.
people don't like that THC effect so much. So
Right, and what we think is going to become very, very popular is a little bit of THC, but a lot of CBD.
Yeah.
And so, the term ratio products, ours are 1-to-1 because they're 50-50 of each. But products that are heavy on the CBD side but have a little bit of THC, and in fact, from a science perspective, the CBD works better if there's a little bit of THC in there as
Yeah,
well too, right?
yeah.
Just from the chemistry side of things, and so that's something that we're working on right now as well
Okay.
too.
And
Yeah.
do you guys have anything else on the fire right now besides that?
We
Or?
do. So one of our products, our quinoa granola bite, is vegan, and so there's a lot of interest in California for vegan products. And so Our jelly products currently are not vegan, but we would like before the end of the year or early next year to have a vegan version of those as well too. So that's something that, our R&D team, so to speak,
As a
is
vegan,
working.
I would love that,
Yeah,
Shail.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll be your
So,
first taste tester. How's that
oh,
sound?
absolutely. I look forward to your feedback. We're always looking
Yeah.
for feedback from consumers just on the cannabis experience and the food experience. That's
Mm-hmm.
extremely important, and that's a lot of I spend a lot of time on, and our entire team spends a lot of time just talking to consumers, understanding if they've tried our product, what was the experience, because we definitely want to learn from that. But also, just what are they interested in? What are they
Yeah.
dealing with? And it's something that when Kim and I first met, we talked a lot about this. Is the focus of My Jane was very, very interesting to us because it was also a big segment of the people that we thought could benefit from our products as well too.
Yeah.
And so, I've been enjoyed kind of the relationship we've had with My Jane, and look forward to continuing
Yeah,
that.
as we are with you.
But we're
Definitely.
we're trying to address the same group of people and
Mm-hmm.
help them with the same things. And so there's
Yeah.
a lot of synergies there
It's
as
just
well.
all about us feeling better and everything, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
it's.
Yeah.
So we'll tell. Where are you from? I hear the accent.
Oh, it's out. Did I
I
out
heard the
myself?
out.
Okay. So
It's-
I'm from Canada
okay, that's what
originally.
I figured.
And it's part of our story because our co-founder and I met late 2016. We had come from other industries. We're in between kind of what we are trying to do, and as we start to get to know each other, we saw this trend that was happening in cannabis, both in Canada and in the U.S. on a state-by-state basis, and that was the full legalization of use of cannabis for recreational purposes. And
Mhm.
so we saw that with that, as I was mentioning earlier, beginners, people that don't have a lot of experience with cannabis, would be interested in now trying cannabis because it was legal, and a lot of the stigma and their fears would be set aside.
Mhm.
We also realized that because they didn't have a lot of experience with cannabis, they would make their buying decisions in a different way.
Yeah.
They wouldn't necessarily want to get into inhaling or smoking or vaping, but would look
Exactly.
for edibles, so food and beverage products. And we knew that because they didn't have the experience, they also wouldn't tolerate a bad experience.
Mhm.
And so bad experiences that everyone that's used it or has a friend that use it can relate to is it was just dosed too much, and they ended up consuming more than they thought, and
I
they
hear
ended up,
that. I freaked out and I couldn't
yeah.
do anything. And yeah,
Yeah.
that couch lock like you were talking about
I was
earlier,
having
it's
this real
crazy.
psycho experience, or I was locked to a couch
I
locked, as they
know.
say, for a period of time because of that.
Yeah.
They had those experiences, and so all these beginners and novices that were coming into
Mhm.
the marketplace because of legalization, they just weren't going to tolerate that.
Yeah.
And so again, it comes back to why we decided to start with the food products first and
Okay.
foremost. And so, from Canada, we chose California because, look, it's the fifth largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
People here, there's a long history with cannabis. It's
Mhm.
culturally accepted. People enjoy the products, and legalization was coming. But also at the same time, it's one of the toughest markets, and you have to be good. You have to be the best
Definitely.
to actually make it and survive and thrive here. And
Yeah.
and and we were up for the challenge, and we've learned a ton in the last couple of years doing this.
Amazing.
And so, I talked a little bit about what the future holds for Three Leaf in terms of the products, but we're also excited to continue to grow in California, but also
Good.
launch our products in Canada at the end of
Oh,
this year, or early next year.
great.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and and share it with others across the
And
U.S.
we're
as well
so
too.
happy to have you as
Thank
with,
you.
as
Yeah,
a partner with us too. I mean,
yeah.
it has been a great partnership for us, and we really do enjoy your products. And I'm so excited about what you guys have coming
Thank
out.
you.
And you know what, Shale, you're the first male on our show.
Oh wow,
Can you believe that?
what an
Because we're
honor.
not just for women either. We
Sure,
do have men buy our boxes. We're not just for women.
sure.
We're health and wellness all over. So tell us what you do for your health and wellness every day.
It's
One
interesting.
thing you do.
So as much as I can, I try and get sleep, get the right amount of sleep,
That's
but
important.
also just physical activity. So I
Yeah.
like to work out, whether it's go for a run or just some core activities or whatnot. I try and watch what I eat. I
Nice.
do enjoy red wine, but these products have helped me kind of manage that and keep it in the right place. So, there's no magic to what I do, but I
Yeah.
definitely find just exercise, sleep, and just watching what you eat. So
Good.
a lot of it's just common sense, but it's just having the discipline to do it, right?
Right,
So
and having some fun every now and then. You gotta
absolutely.
cut loose and
Yeah.
have something that may not be so great for you sometimes. We gotta find that
Yeah.
balance, right? It's
Absolutely. But I think that's another point is balance is
right.
key, right?
And
Otherwise you'll just end up binging in one
I
direction or
know,
another.
I know. And then you're like, I feel good. I don't feel good. What's going
Yeah.
on? So,
Yeah.
well, that's great. So you moved down here from Canada, particularly to start Three Leaf, then?
Yeah, so I split my time, and so this is,
Okay.
without getting into kind of the politics side of it, but immigrating or getting a visa is a bit of a challenge
Yeah,
in kind of
yeah.
the current climate. But what I do is I spend as much time as I'm allowed to. So I spend
Okay.
50% of my time down here.
Good.
And so our production and distribution operations are currently based up in the Bay Area,
Mm-hmm.
but we've got stores all across California carrying our products. We only sell
Great.
into licensed facilities, and so I do literally spend half of my time in California
I
and
imagine.
split that between Southern California and Northern California, just tending to the business, supporting we've got a great team at Three Leaf, so supporting them, and then just talking to consumers who use our products as well as our clients, which is a licensed dispensary. So I
Mm-hmm.
just love spending time making sure people are having a good experience with our products, whether it's actually consuming them or just Three Leaf as a company
Yeah.
supporting them. I just want to make sure everyone's happy with their experience with us.
Do you have a short story you can tell us of somebody who came to you and said, this is what one of your products did for me? Or do you have a little short
Absolutely, I have a
story?
great story. So there's a woman named Liza who used to live in Temecula, between San Diego and here, and so she's an elderly woman. So I'll say a senior, but she's very very active. She's an active real estate agent, but she's also an active horseback rider,
Mm-hmm.
a competitive horseback rider, and so. One of our team members is really good friends with her daughter and started telling her the story about Three Leaf, and she's like, "Oh, I should try that." And so Liza tried it, casually beforehand, but she actually competes in horseback riding events,
Oh, wow.
and so her story is that after getting comfortable with Three Leaf products, she decided to have one before a competition,
Mm.
and she won the competition.
Oh, wow.
And afterwards, she shared with us that it was the best ride of her life, and part of it
Wow.
was because, as we talked a little bit earlier, she was able to get out of her head.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that means is that she put aside her anxiety or concerns about competing, just focused on herself and her horse, her partner in the competition,
Wow.
and just nailed it, and had a great ride and won the competition, and just shared that story.
That's
And
amazing.
it's fantastic because it helped her in a health and wellness perspective, but it
Yeah.
also enabled her to perform at her best in that
Hmm.
particular example in
That
that
enabled
store.
word again. I love that.
Yeah. So I love that story. I tell that story as often as I
Yeah.
can, and so that's one I'm really really proud of. And the others are more just, the stories I hear all the time. I was talking to somebody this morning about a business arrangement, and they said, "Oh, yes, I've come across your products. They taste great. I love it. I feel good when I have them, and it just helps me do what I need to do during the day."
Great.
So and I hear those types of stories all the time,
Yeah.
and that's very heartwarming because
It
that's what we set
is.
out to do from the
Right.
very beginning, was really just help people as much as possible with whatever they wanted help with from a health
Mm-hmm.
and wellness perspective.
Yeah, and I feel like that's why we're all in this industry, right? I mean,
Yes.
most of us, I would say, is that we're, we enjoy these stories and just watching people get better and hearing just all these little things even. I mean,
Right.
I've heard stories of it, somebody who took it for cancer only
Right.
and is now cancer free, as opposed to just somebody who won a competition. I mean, it's
Right.
so amazing what this plant can do, and we're so thankful to have you as a partner with us. And I really
Well,
appreciate
thank
you
you as
coming in
well.
here. And
Yeah.
so everybody look out for what Three Leaf has coming up, because it will be out in the stores very soon. And if you have a story, or anybody in the industry, or anyone that would like to come on and share your story, you can contact us at mystory@myjane.com. If you would like to see what we have going on at MyJane, just check us out on myjane.com as well. And thank you so much for being here, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your Thursday, and tune in next week to see who we have on next week. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks for tuning in to My Jane, My Story. If you want to learn more, you can join the My Jane community at myjane.com. Get instant access to our Facebook group, Facebook community, educational resources, and updates on My Jane products and special events. And for personal attention right now, you can also pick up the phone and call 833-MY-JANE2. That's MYJANE2. And speak to your own wellness concierge, because it's time to own your wellness. Be well.
Welcome into another episode of the Esports Minute, presented by Esports Network. I'm Mitch Reams. Today's top story: the world's biggest esport will have a new way to track viewership and sponsorship valuations. Riot Games is no stranger to massive sponsorship deals. The developer behind League of Legends signed huge deals with MasterCard, Nike, and State Farm in the last year. Now Riot is bringing in Nielsen to provide accurate data on the value those brands are receiving through audience metrics. Nielsen is the standard for viewership numbers in America, and is now expanding their presence to esports to cut through the often mysterious viewership numbers from streaming services. Each streaming site tracks viewers differently, providing potential headaches for brands trying to figure out how to invest in esports. Doug Watson is the head of Esports Insights at Riot Games and had this to say about the new partnership. Quote, "Trust and transparency are vital components of building and maintaining relationships with brand partners. As major companies invest in our tournaments, we want to help them see the value of their exposure and identify how to best engage with our passionate fan base." End quote. That's all for this Esports Minute. Be sure to check back tomorrow for the biggest esports story of the day in just 90 seconds.
This is Jim Overmare from the Sales Lead Management Association. Our sales tip for today is: how many leads must be created to make forecast? To make your numbers, look at your forecast for the coming year in terms of units. Review the existing pipeline and your closing ratio. Now you have the number of units that will be sold in the coming months without lead generation. This is the basis for projecting the number of inquiries needed to make forecast. For instance, if you have to sell 1,000 units this year and your pipeline says that you will close 250 units from the existing forecast, now you need 750 new sales in the coming year. If you're closing 25% of the prospects, you know that you will have to roughly quadruple the number of inquiries to make your number. Double that number again to hedge your bet, taking into account lack of sales lead follow-up, turnovers, some sales leads that won't convert until next year. Here's how it works. You'll need 750 sales. Quadruple that based on your closing ratio, you now have 3,000 inquiries. Because half of those will fall into next year, lack of follow-up, etc., double it again. Now you need 6,000 total raw inquiries for the year. If you have 40 sales reps, they need 150 inquiries for the year, or about 12.5 a month to make your numbers. If an average inquiry costs you $50, the budget will nudge the $300,000 figure, probably well within your cost of sales and cost of marketing. That's our sales tip for today. How many leads must be created to make forecast?
Welcome into another episode of the Esports Minute, presented by Esports Network. I'm Mitch James. Today's top story, the world's biggest esport will have a new way to track viewership and sponsorship valuations. Riot Games is no stranger to massive sponsorship deals. The developer behind League of Legends signed huge deals with MasterCard, Nike, and State Farm in the last year. Now Riot is bringing in Nielsen to provide accurate data on the value those brands are receiving through audience metrics. Nielsen is the standard for viewership numbers in America, and is now expanding their presence to esports to cut through the often mysterious viewership numbers from streaming services. Each streaming site tracks viewers differently, providing potential headaches for brands trying to figure out how to invest in esports. Doug Watson is the head of Esports Insights at Riot Games and had this to say about the new partnership. Quote, "Trust and transparency are vital components of building and maintaining relationships with brand partners. As major companies invest in our tournaments, we want to help them see the value of their exposure and identify how to best engage with our passionate fan base." End quote. That's all for this Esports Minute. Be sure to check back tomorrow for the biggest esports story of the day in just 90 seconds.
This is Jim Obermeyer from the Sales Lead Management Association. Our sales tip for today is how many leads must be created to make forecast. To make your numbers, look at your forecast for the coming year in terms of units. Review the existing pipeline and your closing ratio. Now you have the number of units that will be sold in the coming months without lead generation. This is the basis for projecting the number of inquiries needed to make forecast. For instance, if you have to sell 1,000 units this year and your pipeline says that you will close 250 units from the existing forecast, now you need 750 new sales in the coming year. If you're closing 25% of the prospects, you know that you will have to roughly quadruple the number of inquiries to make your number. Double that number again to hedge your bet, taking into account lack of sales lead follow-up, turnovers, some sales leads that won't convert until next year. Here's how it works. You'll need 750 sales. Quadruple that based on your closing ratio, you now have 3,000 inquiries. Because half of those will fall into next year, lack of follow-up, etc., double it again. Now you need 6,000 total raw inquiries for the year. If you have 40 sales reps, they need 150 inquiries for the year, or about 12.5 a month to make your numbers. If an average inquiry costs you $50, the budget will nudge the $300,000 figure, probably well within your cost of sales and cost of marketing. That's our sales tip for today. How many leads must be created to make forecast?
He used to pester me for a walk. Now it's the other way around.
Hoag physicians perform more orthopedic procedures than any other hospital in Orange County. Our orthopedic program, in fact, ranks among the top 5 in the entire country. So whatever it is you live for, you can get back to it sooner. Because as it turns out, the best part of life is simply living it. Hoag for life. Visit us at www.hoag.org.
Welcome to OC Spotlight, your host, Robert.
All right, that was the voice of Ernie. Hey, Ernie, do a shout out to everybody here.
Hello.
That's it. Wow, that was exciting, Ernie. Anybody want to, your wife, anybody want to do a shout out for her, Ernie?
Yes, my wife, Annie, I love you.
Wish you were here.
Wish you were here. Exactly.
Okay. OC Spotlight, folks, for those of you who have tuned in before, is a special edition show that we do on a random basis. We run these shows in between our other regularly scheduled shows, and the whole premise is simple. We try and find the most incredible people right here in Orange County doing the most amazing things you would never think of. And boy, have we got one here today. I hope you'll find it as interesting as I am, and want you to welcome Nathan Wright, the President and Chief Executive Officer of Wright Records right here in Orange County.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Wright Records. There's a record label here in Orange County?
Yes. We are.
Where you been? I didn't know.
We have been in the lab putting everything together to be able to have the capabilities to really develop new talent. The industry's changed quite a bit in this last decade or so.
The whole business has changed. And just as a precursor, I'll let everybody in on what we were talking about beforehand. I used to be in the music business. I wanted to be a rock star, a singer, whatever. So I came to California with dreams in my eyes and instead I got in the business end of it. I was an entertainment publicist, mostly for middle-of-the-road artists, Johnny Mathis, Jose Feliciano, Anthony Quinn, some others, actors, but we did some music. And my big fun gig was I got to do some stuff with the Police back in the 80s, and I also knew Steve Vai pretty well and did some projects with him, the rock god guru that is still out touring around the world. And from that experience, and had a number of friends that stayed in the business and either got record deals or hung in there until they couldn't hang in anymore. The world was different, wasn't it, Nathan, back then in the 80s and 90s and before the internet here?
Back when things were simple, right?
Well, the simple thing was you were out to try and get discovered. A record label would hire you, would sign you, give you a bunch of money to go make a record, and then they would press it, they would promote it, they would get it on the radio, and you'd make gazillions of dollars. Or you'd get dropped because it didn't sell, nobody played it, and tough luck. And I don't know what the ratio was to success versus non-success, but it had to be pretty high. They didn't sign tons of acts, but the percentage of ones they signed that made it were pretty small.
Well, that was just it. They controlled the playing field. They basically dominated the outlets,
Start to finish. You couldn't go. Yeah. There was no going around them.
Distribution, radio, everything was controlled by the labels.
Yeah.
So basically, you were going to like what you heard, like it or not.
That's it. And there were taste makers. There were people that decided, like people like me. I was also a disc jockey, as I've said before. WMYK, K94, back in Norfolk, Virginia. I had to learn to say Norfolk and not laugh. But Norfolk, Virginia, and which was a top 40 market, I'm proud to say. And we were the tastemakers. The DJs were the ones, or the program directors probably at that point, who decided what was going to go on the playlist and what wasn't. And the record labels were always hounding us and calling us and trying to say, hey, bring your artist down, and trying to say why we should play this record. And as controlled as it was, it did work for some artists. It made millions and gazillions of dollars for the Police and people like that. But there were millions of artists that were excluded, right? They had no really way to produce and sell your own stuff for the most part.
Yeah, a lot of artists didn't really have the creative control and the ownership of their music. First off, they had writers and producers and executives that were coming in and basically dictating things. So that's one of the real bright lights in the industry today, is a lot of artists are able to create specifically to what their own heart desires. And that allows, a lot more of a plethora of talent coming out, especially with today's technology.
Go look that word up, Ernie. Plethora.
It means a lot. a lot of talent coming out all over the world. And they don't need big budgets to record, and you can basically distribute online now with very little overhead.
But now it's gone to the other extreme. So whereas we were limited in how much millions of people wanted to make music, or were trying to make records, or were touring and trying to get discovered, a very few of them got signed, and even fewer of them ever got a play on the radio. It was a very small percentage, tiny percentage. Now everybody can have a studio like we do here, record your own stuff, phenomenal sound, can send it out directly, can play clubs, and totally skip the middleman. But that means that I, as the consumer, have billions of choices to listen to, and I don't have the time to listen to all of them. So how do I sift through the millions of suddenly choices I have on Pandora and Spotify and all these online streaming sites?
It's overwhelming. It really is these days. You have to be involved in so many different things simultaneously, consistently for a set amount of time to get the awareness out. And what I mean by that is having an awareness, online, an awareness when you're performing, people coming to your shows, having, downloads and radio plays, all of these different outlets for your music need to be consumed by the consumers on a mass level in order for you really to be able to get recognized by an investor or a major label these days.
So how does a record label function these days? One, do you still have the same, but do you still sign artists and then you take creative control and do you actually press anything anymore and make a physical product and promote it? What does the record label do these days? If I don't make it and try and sell it directly to the public myself,
what they do is they help us out with the things that don't cost them money. So basically, they help us out with the things that they already have control of, like publishing and radio and distribution.
And in your case, your record label has what, a distribution deal with?
Yeah,
some-
it's a platform of distribution, publishing, and streaming college radio. So we can put our music out.
That's where I started, in college radio. What was it? WCBN in Ann Arbor, Michigan, University of Michigan, and then WCWM in the College of William and Mary. I'll throw those out here. So
yeah, exactly.
College radio is still big. Yeah,
it's huge. So it's a great area to test the markets and see if the people want to hear more of your music.
Right.
So that's basically.
And they got tons of time to listen to tons of records and music. Do we call them records? And we don't call them records.
Well, that's what they are in the system. Is still LPs and EPs and singles, but yeah, it's all digital format these days.
And I'm sorry to keep bouncing around, but I've read more and more that there's suddenly an interest in the millennials to go back to vinyl, to press physical records again here.
Yeah,
and to
you
play
can't.
them.
I mean, you get a you get you get that sound, that raw sound.
Right.
That now you download apps and different softwares and things to add that, because the productions are so clean these days.
For those of you streaming it live here, we are on our Facebook fan page. So if you're listening to us over our internet site, by all means go to Facebook and look up OC Talk Radio. Our Facebook fan page has. Well, I'll do a shout out over there. Everybody wave. We're doing a live video stream. We're experimenting with this over Facebook. There we are, looking for you. And also I'll do this demo for everybody who sees it now or later on YouTube. When I was a kid, as I told you, I ran around listening to one of these. This is what my late father left me from the 60s here. A little radio, held it up to my head. And now we have the same size device in a smartphone, probably the same size speaker in it. And we're back to this little tinny little mono speaker that I'm listening to here, or maybe stereo earbuds. In between there were giant stereo systems that I assembled and had to have. And now all of that's in the garage because we've gone from the little 60s transistor radio to the new 21st century smartphone that is the same kind of sound technology as we once had.
Yep. Technology.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Technology.
So,
yeah, it's amazing, huh?
So again, everything old is new again. Records have found a resurgence. Do you still produce CDs? So if I sign with you, do we produce anything tangible, or
Absolutely,
is it?
Yeah, we have a lot of stores out there that still sell, CDs and albums as well.
Do they still sell them? If I go to a show, are they still selling CDs in the back?
That is the main, the main place that artists sell their tangible products these days are at their shows.
Okay.
Yeah, or their websites. That's usually the only places you can find, unless you're a top, 40 artist, Madonna or Prince or somebody. You're really not going to be in Best Buy or Walmart. These days, you got to have a website. You got to have all these different outlets to be able to.
But even that space has got to be shrinking at Best Buy. Certainly, the outlets have shrunk. They're all the music store chains have gone out of business. So Best Buy is one of the few that's struggling to stay in business and sell physical appliances and things like records and tapes and stuff.
Yeah, there's so little margin in there. You're really not making much, on a hard. It's more of a collector's item these days.
So when we come back from our break, which is coming up pretty quick here, I want you to tell the audience your background, why the hell you got into what seems like a disappearing industry, which is the record business, and how it works today. And then we'll talk about some of the artists you have and what's happening here in the Orange County music scene. Is that fair?
Sounds good. We'll see you in a few.
All right, Ernie, back to you.
When you use the the Premier Rewards Gold Card from American Express, the rewards points can keep on multiplying. Buy 3 with triple points on airfare. Buy 2 with double points on gas and groceries. And a single point for pretty much every other dollar you spend on the card. Then, start choosing from over 1 million rewards to redeem all those points. Apply today and the annual fee for the first year is on us. Call 1-800-AXP-GOLD or visit axpgold.com. The annual fee for the card is $175. See terms, conditions, and restrictions at axpgold.com.
When it comes to pioneers in their respective industries, we all know the Apples, Starbucks, and Trader Joe's of the world. In the realm of recruiting, Decision Toolbox is the industry's best-kept secret, with 90% of their business from referrals and repeat customers. For over 20 years, Decision Toolbox's U.S.-based team of recruiters, sourcers, professional writers, quality personnel, and tech support has perfected a Six Sigma approach to talent management. No matter the size of the project, Decision Toolbox delivers incredible results. A cost per hire less than half of what contingency firms charge, with the winning candidate presented in an average of 14 days, all with a 12-month candidate warranty. With results like that, Decision Toolbox won't be a secret for long. Visit us at www.dtoolbox.com for more information.
And we're back to OC Talk Radio with Paul Roberts.
I love when he says it, Paul Roberts.
Yeah.
We're back in the 60s here. All right, so we've talked about the crazy changes in the business. It seems like when I was involved in the 80s, it was all about getting discovered, getting a record out, and then the touring was just a way to promote record sales. The more you toured, the more records you sold, and that's where the money was. Now it seems like it's the opposite. With Spotify and everything else, if I understand it correctly, you only get pennies, where you used to get dollars and stuff from record sales. So it seems like you put the record out and hope it gets found by some audience so that they will pay to come see you physically play. When the Police assembled themselves a few years ago, reassembled themselves, after the bitter breakup they had. Apparently they still hated each other when they toured. But anyway, they all got together. They made $1 billion, with a B, $1 billion touring. So is that where the money is now? It's live performance?
Yeah. For the artist, that's definitely where they're making their money. Bon Jovi and these bands they're clearing $500,000, $1 million.
And John, if you're out there, you can call us right now. We're taking phones.
Yes.
So go ahead.
The phone lines are open.
The phone lines are open. Go ahead, John.
But yeah, and the labels, really are making their incomes on licensing and publishing. Placement in films and commercials and video games.
That's become a big deal, hasn't it?
Yeah, and in order to raise your value, it's awareness, it's recognition. If you're a known artist, your song's worth more. You're going to bring more attraction to it. So if you're getting a lot of Spotify plays, you might not be making money there, but the value of your material goes up. So a movie soundtrack, a performance, a venue can now say, hey, we got an idea of how many people are coming to our venue now to see you perform. So there's a gauging method of the social media and the streaming radio play that gives you an idea of the value of how many consumers want to hear this artist perform or hear more music from.
So you as a label now do what? You're like a subsidiary label. You're the label that finds the artist and
Today we're called an imprint. It's not a subsidiary would be where they own us and they invest in us.
Okay.
Interscope is a subsidiary of Universal.
Right.
Universal funds them, pays a lot of money, invests in them, and then they make money together.
Right.
Basically, what an imprint label is they give us the capabilities of distribution and publishing and radio, and they take a % off the top of what we do. There's no
and publishing is what? What's the publishing is where you get royalties every time it's played.
Sync licensing. Basically, anytime you see video and there is audio synced to that video. So if it's an advertisement, a movie, a commercial, video game,
Video games,
You
yeah,
know,
I
any,
forgot about
any
that
of
one.
those areas, an app these days, a lot of stuff online. Online's a major, income stream for advertisers. Paying publishing licensing royalties.
And for anybody listening, we use royalty-free music on this show. I go and buy all this stuff. We don't just sample or sound. I don't know what the rules are of how much you can actually use of a real song before you have to pay for it, but I don't even want to go there.
Nothing. Yeah, don't use it. Don't use it. Yeah, ASCAP will find you. ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, they will find you.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, what we're doing is trying to find new talent. We have this Battle of the Bands contest going on. We have two going on right now. One is for the Warp Tour, the Vans Warp Tour, and the winner of that goes on to perform.
That's a big deal. The Warp Tour. That's at the. That's all over the country, but like at Irvine Meadows, it used to be there and stuff.
Yeah, that's at. They keep changing the name. It used to be called the Pond, the Honda Center, I think it is now, right?
Yeah, the Honda Center.
Or one of those places.
Right.
And then we have another Battle of the Bands contest. Both of these have hundreds of bands in each one. The other one is the Right Records Battle of the Bands for a signing contract to a band that we're going to do a full record deal.
And what happens when you sign? Do you pay the money? Do you just provide the production?
Yeah, depending on who it is and the type of deal, everything would have to be termed out and negotiated. But basically, it'd be upfront cost covered and possibly upfront living expenses and stuff. In order to make an album and then distribute it and promote it and get them out there and recognized.
So Nathan, how in the world did you get in this? What were your parents telling you when you said, I want to open up a record label?
Well, that's just it. My dad and my parents got me into it.
Oh, their fault. Okay.
Yeah, it's their fault. My dad was a guitar player for Chicago and Sonny and Cher. Yeah, so he grew up playing with these rock star bands and performing all over the world. And mid 70s,
my era, yeah.
He ended up going to WEA, became a director for WEA, Warner Electra and Atlantic, and produced a lot of things like AC/DC and Hootie and the Blowfish.
Really?
Madonna,
wow. Those are all names I recognize.
Yeah. And there are hundreds of different groups he worked on there.
And so he was the actual producer. He would go in and work in through the sessions. And
he was on different teams. His real specific is guitar. He's always been a guitar pro and everything. So he was on like Mutt Lange. I don't even know who Mutt Lange is.
Mutt Lange was the one that was married to Shania Twain, wasn't he?
Yeah, so he was basically his guitar producer. So a lot of different projects like that where he, at that level you specialize.
Yeah, right. We need somebody to make something, to do synthesizers or strings or drums or something.
Exactly right.
I got a chance years ago to meet the great Tommy Tedesco, who was part of the Wrecking Crew. Go look that one up.
That one, I hear that name a lot from my dad.
Yeah, and there was a rotating sort of group of studio musicians that would play on everybody. Sonny and Cher, and then they're playing on Sinatra the next day or something here.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, with Chicago. So he went with Chicago and Kansas, and they kind of had that Wrecking Crew kind of, altering musicians coming through the studio and on tour with them and all. And it was great, great experience. He was really, amazingly talented and had a lot of great contacts and experiences that he brought. So when I got to the age of trying to figure out, what I'm going to do, I got into music and wanted to get more into promoting and booking shows. And then
did you want to be a performer, or do you play an instrument?
I was always the business-minded person. I had the lawn mowing business and the car wash business at 8 years old.
Made your dad proud.
Yeah, right. I was always trying to pull in some type of business system. But when I got to the point where I understood what to do, make music, get it out there in the stores and get them out there performing and on the radio. It's really.
Do you have a recording background? Did you go study recording
my
like
brother,
our man Ernie here did? Or?
Yeah, my brother and Ernie and these guys, they go to school. They learn their specific
Musicians
talent,
Institute or Recording Institute.
Yeah, this is a machine here that it's a whole life skill. You got to really commit and develop yourself to that as the artists commit to their skills, and I got to focus on what I do as far as the orchestration of
so
the business.
Are there millions of these? Give me the term again. You're not a distribution or a subsidiary. You're
an imprint.
Imprint. So are there how many imprint labels are there around?
Today,
Millions, hundreds,
that's the new wave. If you want to have the capabilities to put music out and actually compete with the majors, if you have what it takes, they'll give you the opportunity to prove yourself. They're not in the business of taking risk anymore, especially on a subjective industry where the technology is advancing so fast you can't even control.
And there's no one proven format anymore. There were two or three radio formats, and you had to fit that. So if you didn't, forget it. If you did Lithuanian folk music, if you did some weird kind of jazz, no audience for you, forget it. Now there's all these hybrid forms and formats and stuff because there is no radio anymore controlling it. So you even go to Pandora and there's millions of weird things you can, search terms you can build a channel around here.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so everything's customizable. So that's just really the position of the majors. They're going to allow us to prove ourselves with numbers, with sales, with numbers.
Now you're more
results.
than just a business behind a door somewhere. You're actually a recording studio here in Orange County too,
yes,
right?
So we own a recording studio, a record label. It's the studio is called California Sound Studios, and the record label is Right Records.
And spell that.
WRIGHT.
Your last name. Right?
Yeah, last name is. And
anybody drop some names here? Anybody big come through the California Sound Studio? Or?
Oh yeah, we've had huge celebrities, from Snoop Dogg to
Snoop. We gotta get Snoop on the show here
and stuff. But one of our new projects coming out is actually a few of the band members from No Doubt and Still Pulse. So we signed a few of the members, and they're coming out with a new project. The band name is called Valley of the Kings, and they have a whole album coming out. It's amazing, reggae, reggae kind of style music.
Ska or something?
Yeah, kind of, more on the
What is ska?
global
Ska's
reggae.
just faster reggae, it seems like. Or I don't know. That's
a little more of a
horn
punk
sections
in there. Yeah, ska's a different, but yeah, this is more